Ladies and gentlemen, Ulyster here with a video designed to give people who are relatively new to the survivor side of Dead by Daylight a push in the right direction for what they should be trying to do in regards to not dying early in the game to give themselves more experience with the mid-game and the late-game side of things. So we're going to start with a very simple perk build for your average survivor. Now, I've chosen these 4 perks mainly because not only are they good perks to teach you different aspects of the game, but they are all common perks to every single survivor. You don't need to play several survivors up to level 40 to unlock all of these. These come unlocked as standard for everyone, which makes it very easy for you to get a hold of them with enough leveling up in the blood web to grab them all. Now, you don't need to get them all at level 3. Level 1 on all 4 is fine, but these are the 4 that I would definitely recommend that you try and start with, if you can. So to start, we have Deja Vu. The important part here is the auras of 3 generators which are in close proximity to one another are revealed to you at the start of the match and each time a generator is completed. Now, this is a very strong information perk for someone who is new to the game, for 2 reasons. First of all, over time it will teach you where the generators are on any given map, which can be especially tricky on the indoor maps where it's not as easy to see where they are from a distance. But second of all, the generators it shows you at the beginning of the game are the 3 that you do not want to have left up when you get to the point in the game where there's just 1 generator left to repair, because those are the 3 that are closest together physically, which means there's a greater chance that the killer will have a much easier time to patrol around them, making it very difficult for you to finish one of them. If, on the other hand, you have 3 generators that are spread out across the entire map, that almost guarantees that you will get the last one repaired, because there's no way the killer can patrol all 3 quick enough to interrupt you over and over and over again. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and do all 3 of these beginning highlighted generators immediately. That's not what I'm saying. As long as you can get at least one of them done, that will greatly decrease your chance of getting accidentally 3-gen'd all by itself. Just finish one to begin with, when you're still learning the map layout and everything. Just finish one to begin with, get one done at some point in the game, and you'll be fine. That will greatly improve your chance of actually getting out of the gate at the end of the game. So yes, Deja Vu, a very good information perk. The second perk we have is Dark Sense. Each time a generator is completed, the killer's aura is revealed to you for 5 seconds. When the last generator is powered, the killer's aura is revealed to you for 10 seconds. This is another information perk that has 2 main benefits to it. Kind of similar to Deja Vu, but more for the killer side of things rather than the generators. The first thing it does is it lets you know where the killer is in relation to you. It lets you know exactly where they are on the map, how far away they are, so you know if you are in any danger, if you need to think about maybe hiding soon, that kind of thing. And the second thing it provides is if you finish, or someone else finishes the first gen, and you still don't know who the killer is, this lets you see their silhouette, so you know immediately who you are facing. The third perk we have is Spine Chill. Get notified when the killer is looking directly in your direction and standing within a 36-meter range. It does do other stuff, but the important aspect of this perk is the notification when the killer is looking at you. This is kind of a soft information perk in the fact that it doesn't highlight anything in-game, but it does let you know in the bottom right corner if the killer is looking at you. And what this perk is for, really, is to try and get you used to the idea that just because you can hear the killer's terror radius, it doesn't immediately mean that you are in any danger. If you can hear the terror radius, but the Spine Chill perk isn't lighting up, the killer's not looking at you, and they're either trying to find someone to hunt, to chase, or they are already chasing somebody else, which can usually be clarified if you see another player's icon change to injured. In that case, you know that you're not in any immediate danger and you can carry on doing what you were doing, cleansing a totem, finishing a generator, finishing that heal on somebody else, that kind of thing. It's a great perk to let you know not to always fear the terror radius. Because a lot of people, when they begin the game and they realize what the terror radius is, they hear that heartbeat in the distance and they immediately run off to hide somewhere. Even though the killer might just be doing like a very basic sweep of the area. So this is great for getting you used to the idea of not immediately fearing the terror radius. And lastly, perk number 4 is lightweight. Scratch marks stay visible 3 seconds less than normal. Now, although this isn't an information perk in the same way that the other 3 are, this is still a great way to teach you something in the game. That being that it's okay to run everywhere. The fact that your scratch marks are removed from the world 3 seconds sooner than they would normally be, this will kind of make you fearless about leaving tracks. And that's kind of the whole point, because a lot of people walk everywhere. And that's not good. Now that we're done with the perks, let's go over some basic gameplay tips. The first one of which is almost always be running. I say almost because there are some occasions where walking is the preferred method of terrain traversal, namely if you're navigating your way around obstacles, around rocks, around trees, trying to avoid a killer who's actively looking for you. 95% of the time, however, running is much better. If you're heading to the first generator of the game, run. If you're heading between generators, run. If you know the killer is going after somebody else, run. If the killer is nearby but Spine Chill isn't active, run. There's not many situations where running is the wrong choice, and learning early on that you have to run everywhere will just serve you better in the long run. Next up is check for Ruin. Hex Ruin is a perk that originally appears in the Hag's Blood Web, but can be taught to other killers in time. It can be particularly annoying for survivors because it causes generators to regress without the killer needing to kick them. To check for it, all you do is head up to a generator and repair it for a second or two, and then let go. If the generator sparks, you know Ruin is active and there's a totem somewhere out there that needs to be cleansed. I'm not saying you should immediately head off to try and find it, because that's never the right idea, but just know that there is at least one totem in the game that you need to keep an eye out for. There could of course be other totems connected to other hexes within the game, but that goes a bit beyond the scope of a simple beginner's guide. Ruin is by far the easiest one to check for. When to rescue someone. This is a little bit harder to quantify because it is quite literally on a case-by-case basis. There are so many different factors to consider every single time someone is hooked, ranging from who the killer is, how far away from the hook they are, how far away you are from the hook, how close you are to finishing your current generator, what hook number is that survivor on, and so many other things that to try and cover everything and all of your available options at that time would just take a video that is ridiculously long. You will generally get a good idea of the best time to rescue someone as time goes on, the more you play. In this particular instance, for example, if I was Elodie, I would not have gone for the unhook as soon as she did, for a couple of reasons. First of all, Nancy had only just been hooked, and it was her first hook. So she would have had plenty of time before progressing onto the struggle phase, onto phase 2 on the hook. Meaning that Elodie could have stayed with me, and then we could have finished this generator with plenty of time left to go and rescue Nancy, and then the 3 of us could have gone on to another generator, and then just blasted that out pretty quickly. The second reason is because the Nancy on the hook has Kindred. We know this because when she was hooked, we immediately saw where the other survivors were on the map. Now this is great because we knew the other Nancy, the second Nancy, was currently being chased by the killer. Which means that as long as the first Nancy was on the hook, we had a good idea where the killer was at all times. As soon as she was unhooked, we lost that information. We can still make an educated guess what the killer was, but at that point, that's all it is, a guess. The main thing to remember though is never, ever, ever be this person. Never unhook a survivor right in front of the killer, especially if you're injured. Don't do it. It's just a bad idea in general. And now we move on to the solo exit switch strategy. You're gonna find yourself in this situation sooner or later, where you're the last survivor in the game, the killer's closed the hatch, you don't have a key, and the only way out is through the exit gate. What you do in this situation is you run to one of the gates, and you hide. The only way the killer can find you at this point is by patrolling between the two gates, hoping to spot you next to one or on your way to one. Either one, that's the only way they can find you. So what you do is you wait for a killer to come and check the gate that you're currently by, see there's no progress, and then run off to check the other one. At this point, you run to the exit switch and you begin opening it. But you stop as soon as you get to the end of the first E in escape, and then you run off and hide again. The reason you do this is because stopping the progress at that point does not allow the first light to activate on the switch. So when the killer comes back again to check it, as far as they're concerned, there's no progress on the gate and you're not there. Which means that once again, they're going to run off to the second gate. At this point, you then have to run back to the switch and commit. Pull that lever and just commit to opening it. If you stop at this point, if you hear the terror radius and you stop, you're as good as done. This game's as good as finished, in all honesty. So pull that switch and hope for the best. Now this doesn't always work. It does depend on a couple of things, namely how far away the gates are from each other, and whether or not the killer has a decent line of sight to both switches. In some maps, in some configurations, the killer can stand in one spot and easily see both switches at the same time, which means that they'll see you as soon as you approach one. In those kind of situations, there's not that much you can do except pull one and hope for the best. Hope the killer just becomes blind all of a sudden, I suppose. Which is a shame, because I think this is a fantastic strategy. And it's really the only hope one survivor left in the game has of getting out. And having a configuration in-game where it makes it impossible for that to happen is kind of a shame, if I'm being honest. But the idea being, you finish opening the gate just as soon as the killer gets to you, at the worst case. And lastly, for this video, when should you just leave? In all honesty, if someone is on a hook needing to be rescued and the gates are powered, there's not many reasons why you should just immediately leave them to it. However, NOED being active is one of them. Once a one-hit down mechanic is shown to be active in the endgame, there isn't really that much you can do for the person on the hook. Just leave. Honestly, there isn't much you can do. You can go and try and find the totem linked to NOED if you want to. You might get lucky and find it immediately, but in all honesty, the time it takes you to find it, one of two things is going to happen. Either the person on hook would have died anyway, or the killer would have found you, hit you, put you on the floor, and then put you on the hook immediately afterwards. That's the only two options, as far as I'm concerned, if you try to find the NOED totem after finding out it's actually a thing. See? There we go, one person down. Completely needless. There are, of course, other one-hit down mechanics in the game that you need to be aware of. Devour Hope when it gets to 3 tokens, for example. That's a bit more advanced, though. But yeah, when there's a one-hit down mechanic in the game, just leave. It is not worth your time trying to outsmart the killer in this instance, because it only takes one mess up and you're done. That's it. So if the gates are open, even if someone's on a hook, just leave. It's in your best interest. There's no point staying. And that's it for this video. Hopefully this guide has been helpful enough for you, and you will be able to survive for longer the next time you enter the Entity's realm in Dead by Daylight. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.